Hi everyone. I think we can all start. Yeah? Medea? Yeah? So Pierrick, Arthur. Is it okay?
The topic for the topic of the panel discussion is from media literacy to cognitive security. Is democracy adaptable enough to face modern threats? Rethinking democratic resilience in the information age. The moderator, Camille Grenier, is the executive director of the Forum on Information and Democracy, France. Mr. Grenier, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Medea. Thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you, Anush. It is my great pleasure to be back in Yerevan for the dialogue, my third edition, and we're really, really happy at the Forum on Information and Democracy to be now a long-time partner of the Yerevan dialogue. I would really like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for gathering us, all the partners who are including in the preparation and the organization of this wonderful platform that is the Yerevan dialogue. One thing I love about this panel, I go to a lot of international conferences on media freedom, on information integrity and democracy. But one thing I love about this specific event is that there is always, at one moment, someone who will, bring a new perspective to the work I'm doing. Someone I don't usually meet in all these international conferences. And, it was no surprise that this happened yesterday morning, when we were all seated in the big room waiting for the opening ceremony. I somehow got introduced to a brain surgeon from Las Vegas. He's Armenian, but he has his practice now in Las Vegas. And so I started to chat with him, and I told him, oh, well, wonderful, you're working on the brain. Tomorrow we'll have actually a discussion on the brain, on our cognitive system, and how our brain is also framing and interacting with our information ecosystems. And something in the discussion, we started to talk about AI, and something he said that struck me is, one thing that really differentiates us from AI is our emotions, is the part of our brain that deals with emotion. And it got me thinking on how, we interact with information, with our information ecosystem, with news, with journalism, also through our emotions. And something that a lot of people soon realized, notably from autocracies and dictatorships, is that emotions can be played. You can play with emotions. You can ignite fear, you can ignite anger, you can also inspire joy and hope. And a lot of people have realized that you can also use algorithm and creative algorithm, social platforms, to game and to play with the emotions of democratic societies and of citizens around the world. We have a lot of evidence on these issues, on how you can tweak an algorithm to ignite fear or hope in democratic societies. And I think this is at the core of, when I travel to a lot of democratic places, a common thread throughout all these places is the polarization of our democratic societies. And so I think that, this is in part what we will explore today with our great panelists, and it's really fantastic to have longtime partners and friends today with us. And I will really start with this big question that we have when we talk about emotions and our interaction with the information ecosystems is, what is AI and what role will AI play in our interaction with information ecosystems and more broadly with democracy? So I would just like to start heads on, because we've already touched upon this conversation and this discussion yesterday in a couple of panels, but I really want to have everyone's hot takes and views on this topic, because you cannot go to a conference without talking about AI these days. So what is your views on this interaction between AI and democratic and the public debate? With really a first question of, and I will ask everyone to answer in 2 minutes, is it, and it's a bit scholar, but is it a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, or a threat? We're going to try with the first round of questions to do this SWOT analysis of AI and democracy. And I would like to start with my first neighbor, Pierrick. Pierrick Judot, you are the the director of policies at the International Fund for Public Interest Media. What do you think about this question of AI in democracy?
Thank you, Camille, and thank you to the Yerevan Dialogue for having me. Yeah, 2 minutes on this is not the easiest, but I think over yesterday there was a lot of mentions of the potential of AI, so I won't come back to this, but it's kind of evident that this gives access to much more information, much more quickly, in much more personalized way. Let me focus on what I think are the kind of key challenges for democracy and cognitive security. And in a way, we've seen a version of that movie before, right? In the past couple of decades, we've seen what happens when our information space becomes mainly organized around kind of digital platforms that operate with opaque algorithm and for a profit, with limited focus on the public interest. Let me outline kind of 3 things that I think are specific when it comes to AI. The first, and this is particularly relevant sitting here in Armenia, is that most AI products today are designed for kind of major markets that big AI companies care about. If you're a society that has a so-called under-resourced language, most of the products don't really kind of bring in information that are relevant and are not anchored in your societal realities. And so that's obviously a big issue for a place like Armenia, because you'll see AI becoming much more central, but it's not designed and it's not anchored in kind of data and information that comes from the country. And it goes beyond kind of cultural biases, which of course are extremely important. There's no lot of research that shows that if you look at the outcomes or the results given by AI chatbots, they actually have a higher rate of error and hallucinations in under-resourced languages. So it goes beyond kind of biases. The second point is, and again, there was a lot of conversation around this yesterday, is that AI is supercharging disinformation and propaganda, including kind of foreign interference. Of course, it makes it much cheaper and much faster to disseminate kind of fake information and fake narratives. But it goes beyond this in a way, because AI chatbots themselves are becoming vulnerable to manipulation. Again, there was a new piece of research released a couple of days ago that shows that some of the most popular AI chatbots now relay falsehood that originate in kind of foreign state propaganda and disinformation campaigns from Russia, from Iran, and now that's coming through the results of the chatbots that show this kind of falsehood as truths. And if you add to that the fact that it's being used by many ill-intentioned actors in key moments like elections, you really have a lot at stake when it comes to society's cognitive security. I'll say one final point, which is it's destroying whatever was left of the business model for independent media. And we'll come back to that later, I'm sure, but because people consume more and more information through AI overviews or AI chatbots, traffic is being driven away from news sites, which means that ad revenues and reader revenues are going down. And this is happening now already. We've seen that globally, there's 1/3 of the traffic going to news sites that has already disappeared. For some publishers and in some countries, it's up to 50 or 60%. And so you had independent media that were already extremely weak financially, economically, that play an even more important role today, that are being further weakened by AI platforms.
Thank you so much. So you had 3 minutes, so I will let everyone have 3 minutes then. The market supercharging disinformation and the impact on media sustainability, that's already a lot of challenges for our public debate. I will now turn to Arthur Papian, who is a digital threats analyst at the Cyber Hub Armenia, to have this sort of presentation on AI and democracy.
Thank you. Very broad question, and one of the misunderstandings about AI comes from overestimating it. AI is a tool. You can use it for good, you can use it for bad. My team has built an AI tool which is able to moderate and filter hate speech in Armenia, which is a pretty challenging task, which is not supported by other tools. But I'm telling about this because there was an opportunity, an opening, we used it, and I know what I'm talking about when I talk about AI. Per strengths of AI, it is a great tool. Like, I'm using it literally every day. My team is using it every day. With scarce resources available, we're able to maximize our impact and to reach stuff that we never even dreamed about it. about in the patch. We're also using AI for social listening, which is in this current environment in Armenia, where we're facing multitude of hybrid threats and disinformation, allows us to much more effectively track what's happening, try to see trends, analyze it, and then bring human input to finalize the results. This is a strength for media because it also allows media to cut down costs, to speed up production cycle, to help with a lot of tasks like data analysis, deciding how to market their content, how to create much easier. However, of course, one of the big issues is we in Armenia, we are wholly dependent on basically various platforms, some Western, some Chinese, some American, to provide this AI service. And we see that there is this AI capitalism and AI oligarchy developing where AI, people who control AI, Elon Musk's and the like, are holding immeasurable amount of power, and we literally have very little impact on this. We in Armenia are somehow lucky because you have probably heard, we are already building Firebird, which is an AI factory, and this will bring another 40,000 microchips, and Armenia will be placed on the map as a place where you can process AI. This will hopefully make us less directly dependent, and since open source AI models are developing very fast, we can very well be utilizing this power to run our own AI models, and in this way we can sort of have more AI sovereignty, let's say. But for others, think about it. I think other countries should come to Armenian investors and ask them to build Firebirds in their countries as well. I dare you. As for threats, very well formulated, yes. Media is losing power, and yes, the AI effects are not trickling down. They're centralizing in some specific companies' hands. I mean, those investment rounds are huge and terrible, but I can see this also as an opportunity, because with so much disinformation, AI can start to at least again regain its image as a truth maker. Because it's impossible to track all the information, disinformation, and try to make sense of it. So if you are a good, reputable media, you have a chance to put your stake there and say, this is the flag, this is what I stand for, come to me for values. And the reason I speak about AI so much is because the issue was already raised, and B, I feel that one of the greatest benefits that Armenia has even now is that it has a relatively free market, AI media market, which allows us to discuss openly what we're up to.
Thank you so much. It's great, and I hope everyone is taking note about the SWOT analysis on AI and democracy, because there is really a lot of important things that you're saying right now. Ani, I want to turn to you. You're the spokesperson of the Armenian MFA. Again, thank you so much for welcoming us in Yerevan. What are your take on AI and democracy?
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being with us. Of course, it's a pleasure to have so many experts and practitioners coming to join us at the Yerevan Dialogue, and especially for such topics as democratic resilience and information integrity, which, as you can imagine, is a very important priority for the Republic of Armenia, not necessarily in short term, but in a long-term perspective. On AI, of course, you said that AI is playing with the emotions. I fully agree, because we are more and more feeling that we are going to lose our jobs. But the part of that, I agree with Artur that we shouldn't overestimate AI as well. So from our perspective, we are trying to use AI in our practices as an opportunity. But from the other perspective, of course, we feel every day the challenges that the tools of AI are creating. Just to give you some statistics on FIMI and disinformation when it comes to Armenia, since last May until this March, we had the same amount of disinformation activities and operations, the same amount as we had since May till now. So you can imagine that this kind of operations and actions are accelerating, and they are accelerating with the help of not only humans but the AI. Here what we are doing, we have our own tactics, I would say. Of course, I'm speaking of on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but I believe there is also a whole government approach that we are trying to put emphasis also on our own communication, on being proactive on our Stratcom, so that our message is there, and we are not all the time refuting, because every day you can see disinformation on Armenia in a website which has been created in France, for example, or China or somewhere else, but not exactly from those countries. But they are AI created. They have been existing in two days or a week, but they are putting a strong analysis about Armenia, about some sensitive topics related to Armenia, which doesn't have anything to do with the reality. So we are trying to have our own communication, our own narratives over there for the public, so that they know the sources, they know where they have to refer. But of course, what we do in parallel, we try to build resilience among the population, yes, because people see a video, they don't necessarily check whether it is AI, whether it is really created. They see a video of each of us telling something, and they tend to believe most of the time, because they watch it in social media for a second or two, and they don't go to check. So we try to build the resilience and the trust, because, you know, every time when we speak about disinformation, whether it is AI or not, there is an important red line between the freedom of expression and freedom of expression and the line where we have to have some cautious, you know, because at one point, freedom of expression referred to humans, referred to people who were expressing their opinions. We were seeing them. We see them now, but now it's not only humans that are speaking, literally. So maybe we need to have more regulations there to make sure that between this line, the most important thing, which is the trust of the people towards the government, towards the democratic values, not necessarily with only institutions, is not undermined. Because in this process, what is the most worrying, that people lose the interest or lose their trust towards democratic institutions. So from the perspective of the government of Armenia, this is the most maybe sensitive part where we are trying to put more resources. And of course, it is not only public messaging, it is not only for a political side, but it's a lot of work being done as a society. Yes, I very much appreciate the activities from our civil society organizations, like Artur mentioned. Yes, they are doing like the technical part, which is coming to really strengthen the capabilities we have. Of course, Armenia cannot do it alone. That's why we appreciate being here. The partners who have more capabilities than we do. To sum up, I would say that it's a challenge that we are facing, but it is not Armenia that is facing. We see that this challenge is over there for the European countries as well. And we do appreciate the cooperation and partnerships with the countries that feel the situation that we all are, and try to help also Armenia to tackle these challenges. And also, it's also important that it is felt by our society, because there should be whole of the society approach. Only government, only one institutions cannot deal with it. This is quite an important point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Annie, for bringing all this. And you made me think of one story that we've seen recently is AI-generated influencers, and you don't know who is behind it, but they will push a very strong political agenda, and you end up realizing it's just AI, and you don't know who is behind it. And this has a direct impact on trust on democratic institutions and on the public debate. And clearly, we need some safeguards and some red lines here on these kind of things. Sam, we want to turn to you now from the International Ideas Perspective, the Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. You work internationally, but clearly AI has been sort of one of the new challenges that has come recently. So what is your views on AI and democracies and elections?
Thank you, Camille. Let me start by echoing the other speakers and thanking the Armenian authorities. It's a real a real success, this conference. And this conference is only the third in an iteration of international events. So my high esteem for the authorities for putting this off. In response to the question, is it a threat or an opportunity? I'm going to take a real stance here. I think in the short run, we're facing a significantly higher threat to democratic societies with the advent of AI in the short run. And this is what we see. So IDEA works on elections in Ukraine and Moldova and in Armenia and in the Western Balkans and globally. And we see that this new threat is developing so rapidly. Electoral commissions, democratic actors are struggling so hard to find, how do they control this? In the immediate future, this is probably the biggest threat to democratic societies. That doesn't mean that AI can also be used to counter it. But in the immediate future, we're all grappling. So we have to take it seriously. We've been working on the topic of digitalization of elections for the past 10 years or so, starting from the Cambridge Analytica scandal. But just the data flows that have gone up so dramatically, the machine learning that have put steroids on the debate, I think that is really putting this in a whole new dimension. That means also that the methods that we've employed for the past years are no longer sufficient. Right? We have to think of new tools, new ways of countering, especially the foreign interference part of AI, not only, but especially the foreign interference part. And we have to choose where to focus, because we can't fix it all at the same time. Elections, for me, are one of the priority areas, because those are the weak spots. As soon as you let AI influence elections, then you lose the democratic discourse that you're trying to protect long term. So in trying to fight back, you have to choose your battles. In that warfare that has just gone on steroids, you have to choose where do I put all my energy. So elections are the starting point, because if you get that wrong, you get all the rest wrong as well. So elections is a priority. In Armenia, of course, elections are coming up soon. We're working closely with the Electoral Commission, but not only, because there's also cybersecurity agencies and information agencies, and of course civil society that play a role there. But keep in mind the electoral part, that's the priority, I think, if we want to win this battle long term.
Thank you so much, and I think we will go back to what International IDEA is doing here, and also I will ask a question on what can we do in terms of policies, because Sam, you're based in Brussels, so there's this whole agenda there on acts, including the AI Act and the Digital Services Act. But before going back to you, I'm just going to keep the same order. Now that we've dealt with AI and that we've understood that it's both a threat, an opportunity, a risk, short-term threat, but also a tool that can really help and support democracies. I really want to bring everyone's perspective and the specific approaches that everyone has on this framework of where we are today in this discussion around democratic resilience. And I really love how the panel has been shaped from media literacy to cognitive security. Really, where are we in this conversation that we've had over the past 10 years? You were referring to Cambridge Analytica, and over the last decade, we've had a lot of conversations. So I really want to have everyone's perspective on where we are and what are we still missing to safeguard democracy, because in this sort of democratic decline that we're witnessing. Pierre, from the International Fund for Public Interest Media perspective, where do you feel that we're heading and what are we still missing in that conversation?
Thank you, Camille, and just to share my appreciation with all the points made by the other panelists before. I think there's two things we need to see more of, and we're trying with the International Fund to work on both fronts. The first is to kind of foster a relationship between AI platforms and kind of independent journalism, or more broadly producers of reliable information that enables both kind of fair compensation as well as to put kind of reliable information at the core of these models. So that's the first point. The second one is, as I was alluding to before, independent media are weaker than ever, and there's a need for new kinds of supports because their role is kind of more critical than ever in a way. And maybe let me start with that second point. I think the first thing, and again using using the framing of cognitive security, I think it's really important to acknowledge that the way kind of disinformation and threats to information integrity happen has evolved very rapidly. And we've moved from disinformation campaigns trying to propagate very specific lies to something that's much broader, that's about kind of creating confusion, creating kind of broad disbelief that make it very difficult for citizens to agree even on very kind of basic, simple facts. And so in that context, yes, it's very important to promote kind of rapid response effort, detection of this disinformation, sanctions, and all of that, but you can't really, it's not enough. You need to have kind of the sustained and constant provision of reliable and relevant information for citizens. And that doesn't happen without kind of stronger independent media. As I was alluding to before, there's a clear kind of market failure that's just being made even more acute by AI. And so that's one of the reasons why we've created the International Fund. For those of you not familiar, just in kind of 10 seconds, we're the first multilateral institution that's fully dedicated to financing information integrity and independent media in low and middle income countries. We're backed with a very broad coalition, including Armenia, which is one of the members and supporters of the fund. And I think there's more and more appetite and acknowledgement that this is important. At the end of last year in Paris, we held a big kind of conference on information integrity with Prime Minister Pashinyan, President Macron, and about 30 other states. And they made a commitment, a collective commitment in a political declaration to do more by way of multilateral action and support to independent media. And I would kind of completely agree with Samuel's point earlier. Elections are really one of the moments where this needs to happen. And again, I feel things are changing and changing quite rapidly. So 2 days ago, there was the European Political Community Summit here. And one of the things that head of states and governments discussed is a proposal that was put forward by President Macron, Prime Minister Pashinyan, and President Sandu from Moldova in terms of using a mechanism like the International Fund to boost kind of financial support to media in electoral and pre-electoral periods. And we've seen the effect this has. We did a lot of work in Moldova, for instance, and we've seen how media both kind of unveiled interference in the electoral process. We've seen how they were able to bring reliable information into parts of the country that were basically news deserts and left to kind of foreign-sponsored propaganda. We've seen them reach out to younger population and the youth kind of turnout at the elections had never been higher. And so we've built a lot of learnings there, and in a few other geographies. We've actually ramped up our support here in Armenia ahead of the elections, now supporting a number of and quite diverse range of independent media. So that's the first point. The second one, very, very quickly, if I still have a minute, is on fostering a kind of relationship between AI and journalism that puts reliable information at the core of AI. We're working on two fronts. First, on the compensation question, so building policy solutions, whether through legislation or regulation, that enable that compensation, building the mechanisms that are needed to do that, including for collective licensing, and then building kind of broad coalitions in our partner countries to bring media together to act as a kind of single entry point for AI companies. The second level is to build, there's a missing, I guess, a kind of middle layer to connect AI and the producers of reliable information. And so we're working with partners to build that middle layer, working on things like, creating localized data sets, including in kind of so-called low-resource languages that can then be easily accessible by AI and kind of tools and LLMs. We're also working on marketplaces to make sure that it can be accessed but not, basically stolen, because this is what's happening today. AI models use kind of reliable data information produced by independent media without compensating them at all. So we're working on those two fronts, and I hope we're going to see more kind of partners come to this table.
Thank you so much, Pierrick, and for also keeping in time. I really like the short and long-term vision that we need to have. Short-term, we need to fight the battle of information warfare, but we also need to have this sort of longer-term views on what kind of information ecosystems we want to live in, and where is the place of the media fitting in all this conversation, and its sustainability, of course. Arthur, I want to turn back to you on building on on this sort of cognitive security piece, and also how you've contributed in sort of safeguarding the public debate in the run-up to the upcoming election here in Armenia, and also maybe building on some of Pierre's points on the international community. How can you have some support from different stakeholders here in Armenia, but also more broadly around the world?
So firstly, Armenia is not new to hybrid threats and disinformation. In 2021, we had pre-term elections, and it was ugly. And Armenia didn't have even half of the support it has now. And I can see very clearly how a lot of capacity is there, both in the government side and in the civil society. And I wholly agree to the points about AI, media, and strengthening this bond, as I come from media myself. But media needs interlocutors. Media needs somebody to talk to. And in this regard, it is very important that we are seeing now that the government has built up its Stratcom capabilities. It has built up its cybersecurity capabilities. We are seeing that when media comes to the government for questions, the government already knows it and is already there with an answer. This is a new situation for us relatively. Government has even launched an AI-based AI fact-checking tool called Stugel.am. I don't want to talk about it too much. I mean, like, it does the job, so it's, and you're welcome to try, I guess. But what I welcome is that I can see this creative spirit in the Armenian government, which wasn't there for a while, and I see this energy, and it's interesting, and I can see how this energy, these new capabilities come in part or largely in part with the help of Armenia's partners. We are ourselves looking a lot at, we are doing like very massive social listening. We are tracking about 10 major topics which are exploited actively by disinformation actors, and we are able to work with our media partners to push out the narratives, and then media partners are able to reach out to the government for comments and come back. And this cycle is at right now, even with such a big spike of disinformation, is working much more effectively than I've seen. Like over the past, I guess, 1.5 months, we've produced more than 53 debunked stories are in the process. So. And we are able to very directly see how AI disinformation is going, where there is just manipulation topics. This is all thanks to AI, but this is also thanks to partners, because we alone would never have the resources to leverage those tools. So I have to thank here many of the partners, like IDEA showed me social listening tools, which we are now actively using. IFPIM is supporting some of the partners we're working with, etc. So in this regard, it's going much better than I expected, and newfound capabilities are just like there, and we have to admit that.
Yeah. But a quick follow-up question, if you allow. What are your main needs right now? If you had a wish list of well, this is what I need in the very short term, what would that be?
One of the big issues is human resources, and it's a double-edged sword. When I talk about human resources, partners suggest more training, but we don't have enough people to train them even, because like those who are there in the business, let's say, of debunking and social, they've overtrained, and we're not even able to track more. And that's actually one of the issues that the hybrid mission that the EU is deploying is addressing, like exactly that, bringing the human resources to also help out. So I guess that's a very critical need, and we need to develop on our end much more and involve new people, but also this is a very, very welcome help.
Thank you so much. That's a very clear takeaway as well from us and for the international partners that some of us represent. Ani, back to you on, actually I want to turn a little bit the question. I've seen, the Forum on Information Democracy will work with a lot of governments, 57 of them around the world. And I've seen that Ministry of Foreign Affairs are really playing a crucial role in these conversations around safeguarding democracy, tackling foreign interference and information manipulation. I would love for you to share a little bit of your own perspective from the Armenian MFA. What is your role? How you built your own capacity to address the challenge? And maybe same question as Arthur on what can the international community, intergovernmental organizations like IFPIM, International IDEA, the Foreign and Information Democracy, can bring, but also key partners. Of course, there was a state visit from President Macron and the European Political Community Summit. What can these crucial partner can bring to Armenia?
Thank you very much for the question, because tackling disinformation hybrid threats has become naturally a daily life. So we had our own experience already several years. We have accumulated certain experience, and it's not already surprising for me when we talk to some experts and partners abroad. When we share our experiences, sometimes they are really surprised, because when we share the scale and the activities that sometimes we are facing, they are sometimes surprised how the small Armenia can have such a challenge, and what are the tools and the ways to tackle. And I think these partnerships, in a way, I can allow myself to say that they are not only one-sided, that international partners are supporting Armenia with its capabilities, but we are also sharing certain experiences that we had, which can be relevant for other countries as well, who are going through some democratic processes. When it comes to the partnerships that we have built so far, of course, the European Union plays an important role here. I think everybody knows that we had already announced that there will be European Union mission, second mission, a civilian mission deployed to Armenia, the mandate of which will be tackling the hybrid threats, including the disinformation, cybersecurity, and unlawful flow of financial resources. So this is one very clear example how we try to instrumentalize and use concrete instruments that are available from our international partners. Of course, member states, like you mentioned, France or Estonia, I will say, countries from the Baltic states that have certain experience, and they are very happy to share it with us. We have already had a very big and very efficient cooperation with them, like exchange of experts, but not only on the government level, but again on the society level. We try, as the government, we try to promote engagement between civil society, between organizations like the Cyber Hub and their counterparts, so that they can get the support when it comes to their tools. It is not only on the political level, but it is on the level of the respective institutions. I think all this brings to leveling up the resilience, yes, because if we have certain amount resilience in the society, they are ready for the elections or any other processes that will be after the elections in a year, two, or afterwards. So from the government perspective, we are really looking into it not only from the short-term perspective, but very much I share the approach of the colleagues that it is a long-term perspective. AI can be short-term threat, but you don't know what kind of a storm will come, because our title this time is the Riding Through the Storms. Yes, we don't know which kind of storm will come after the AI storm. So we are looking into this from the long-term perspective. The partnerships, of course, I can say also the United States, with whom we also have and signed an MOU when it comes to artificial intelligence last year in August, along with several other documents. We are now building up on this partnership as well, so that it delivers very concretely for the benefit of our citizens and through certain companies which have a big reputation. So I can continue, because it has really become our daily life, both tackling that challenge, fostering the partnerships. So I hope we will have the continuation of this discussion anyway in different formats.
Thank you so much. And we started late, so I hope we can still have our 50 minutes. But I'm seeing some signs that we need to speed up. Sam, I mean, we've already have a lot of takeaway. One thing that we haven't touched upon a lot for now is the discussion around regulation. and you're based in Brussels, so you've been really following the different tools that the European Commission has been developing, the Digital Services Act, the AI Act, to some extent the Digital Markets Act as well. What are the means, and how can these tools can also be used in other settings, including the neighboring regions, and how can we potentially expand these tools to outside of the EU, what we call the extraterritoriality of the Digital Services Act, for example, and where do you see a space or maybe an opportunity there?
Thanks. So I'll start by referring to what Annie said earlier on. I mean, it's all about maintaining that public trust, right? Things will go wrong. There will be interference, there will be abuse of AI, the tech companies will do things that we don't like. But as long as we feel that there's a level of risk that we are willing to accept, I think we can protect ourselves. Right? So we have to maintain the public trust, not by pretending that things are going to be perfect, but by showing that we have a plan. And to build that plan, we need to build strategies. And some countries have started to do this. France has recently released its strategy on AI. And of course, democracies have it more difficult. They don't have the free-for-all approach that autocracies can take. So you have to define that balance. How much do you want to push back? How much do you want to protect civic rights while doing so? I think that's step one. Every country has to start with a domestic debate, accepting that there's going to be AI, there's going to be AI threats. That's all right. We shouldn't panic. But we want to put in place the institutions. We want to build up the tools, have it in the civic organizations. We have a plan. That's what you want to do, and that's a long-term effort. The EU, going to your question, Camille, is an important player in that because they have the legislation, they have the frameworks that Armenia and other enlargement countries can borrow from, right? And that's a strong signal also to citizens that the EU has something to offer, that it helps them to be protected and that they do so within a democratic framework, that there are possibilities to push back, that panic is not necessary. It's also a two-way street, right? Armenia has a lot more, it's in the line of fire, much more than countries in Western Europe are. So Armenia can demonstrate that it has something to offer, that in its elections it will experience threats that countries in the EU may not have had to deal with yet. And that's what we see a lot. While Armenia is adopting a lot of these EU frameworks and legislation, it's actually also showing the way. It's showing the way with other actors, with new tools. So the EU is also on the learning side. So I think we have to also make the point that the two-way street, that's what EU integration is about.
Absolutely, and yeah, I wanted to catch as well what Annie, you were saying on the fact that Armenia can also share a lot of lessons, and this is also what we're trying to do within the Forum on Information and Democracy, to have, as you said, Sam, the two-way street for international cooperation. I'm looking at my timekeepers, but can we still take a question from the audience, or just one? I see the gentleman right there who already raised his hand, so just one very quickly, and then we'll wrap up with everyone. Thank you.
I will be very quick, so thanks for everything. I'm from Italy, and I'm a psychiatry, and I am working on studying the role of emotions on political choices. And I think that all the studies that have been done on the amygdala and all the anxiety, fear, show that this is an individual process that has been used by the platform in defining profiles. This is the fragmentation of the information. And this is the role of the artificial intelligence that has been extremely important, is to succeed in a very quick way, very accelerated way, to transform the individual emotions in collective emotions through echo chambers, through different type of profilization. Now, the point that has been raised, the profile comes from data, and the data are not, we cannot really stop the work of the platform on the data, because that's what the platform have been created, to create markets. So the politics has become a market. The one that are able to produce more accurate profile will be more successful. So now when we talk about truth, we talk about trust. And if you consider that the trust of the European population regarding the European Union is very low at the moment, whatever we do and whatever we say in terms of trust and whatever we say about truth has to be considered in this way. People does not believe if they do not have trust.
Yeah.
So even the European AI Act that has been produced with 3 years of work and now is already late, I'm finishing.
Yeah.
Just
Can we get
this.
to the question, please?
The point is, how do we create a filter that is the critical thinking? We have to start from youth to create a critical thinking.
But what the question is?
The question is that we are talking from the individual, we're talking to the state strategy.
Yeah.
And this is really something that is not going to help.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for the question. I just want to give you, really, the panelists just one last opportunity to share any points. I think what you were referring to, the profiling of users, is a critical thing. Then again, the EU with the GDPR has been a leader in this space. Is this also an angle that we need to address? The protection of personal data, that's a question that maybe if I had more time, we could have touched upon. Just want to give, for final remarks, very short remarks, because we are a little bit behind schedule, to my panelists. Let's keep the same order. If there is one thing you would like to add, and maybe refer to the point from the gentleman. Pierrick.
I think I want to end on a point you've made, Annie, which is the kind of whole of society approach that's needed for this. And so it's really critical that we don't think about cognitive security or foreign interference through kind of narrow lenses. And so we need all the tools that we have. We need the work on detection, rapid response. We need the regulation. We need the independent media. We need the education. But it's really, I think we have a collective challenge, which is how do we bring the things together and kind of stop those silos. So I'll end on this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being very quick. Arthur?
While I agree to the point about working with kids and on education, I don't think it's realistic to expect that everybody will come home and faced with incredible amount of disinformation, very convincing fakes, do their homeworks, double check, because the person has worked all day, they're tired, they just want to relax and just follow the news. It's not realistic. So unless we work with the platforms, unless we force the platforms to consider media and work with media, unless we empower the media to become the arbiter of truth, we are lost. So even though I sounded pretty optimistic, because that was the trend, we are facing with existential dangers here, so let's not underestimate that either.
Thank you so much. Annie? I think your microphone is off.
My answer will be the following, that the individual is at the core of Armenian democracy. And that comes also when we talk about youth. Just to share the very recent experience. Yesterday in the evening we had a conversation with the foreign minister with around 200 young people. That was amazing. They were asking such questions that sometimes we were surprised why they are not sitting with us at this table, because they have their very specific views. They are asking very good questions, which was really, we were really glad with that, because it brings me to the point that there is resilience in the society, there is really resilience in the youth. And when they have questions, they are asking, and they provide us the opportunity to give the answers. I was very amazed with this conversation. It was a very good one, and I want to say that we really look into this, because the youth play a crucial role when it comes to democratic resilience and the whole of the society approach.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with you that we need more young people to share their own views on what they want as in information ecosystems as they're growing up. Sam, some final words?
Some final words. What I'll say, I think we're moving into an era where we can't focus on content moderation anymore. People dislike the EU in one country, another country they dislike democracy, or they like military rulers. I mean, for the longest of time, we've been trying to convince people that some information is wrong. With AI, that's just become impossible. We have to accept a level of falsehood. and instead focus on the underlying infrastructure, right? So what is the information supply chain that people take their news from, and invest in that, right? Make sure that we have the right institutions, be it government bodies that fight back, or media, or civil society. Make sure that we do a better job at building that information infrastructure than the other side. And then we let content speak for itself. Sometimes we'll get it wrong. Sometimes people will think that the EU is a horrible thing. But at least we make it a fair fight, right? That's, I think, the shift we have to mentally make. And it will cost us a lot less than trying to take down each individual fake news item.
Thank you so much, Sam. I am seeing we really need to wrap up. Thank you so much. That was very concrete conversations. Thanks again to Armenia for also its leadership in the work of the Forum on Information and Democracy. And I think we will leave the room for the next panel. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation.